We'll learn about some basic color handling techniques, common mistakes beginners often make, and paint a simple galaxy painting to practice all of these together.
Before we start painting, we need to understand what concentrated color, properly diluted color, and watery color mean. Concentrated color is usually paint that has been left out in the air for a while and has partially evaporated, or paint that has just been taken from the jar but the artist uses a dry brush without dipping it in water, which causes the dry brush to absorb all the moisture from the paint, making it dry as well. The simplest sign is that when you apply this paint to the paper, it leaves rough streaks that don't fully cover the paper like this. In terms of feel, when you brush it on, it won't glide smoothly but will feel a bit scratchy and dry. When you paint and the paper shows through like this, it can be really frustrating. Not to mention, painting with dry paint will make the color layer too thick and heavy on the paper's surface, which can cause the painting to crack and the color patches to break later on. In contrast to thick paint, diluted paint usually happens when you mix in too much water, making it very pale and unable to cover the paper. Instead, you can still see the color of the paper's surface underneath. The clearest sign is when you paint over printed text, like in this case, you can still see and read the words underneath. Meanwhile, the layer of paint next to it completely covers the text. At the same time, the surface of that paint area is very smooth, flat, and even. That is the case of paint with just the right amount of water. Paint with just the right amount of water simply means it's not too thick, but also not too diluted like the previous two cases. But how do you know when it has just the right amount of water? Your brush has a bundle of bristles that can actually hold quite a lot of water when you dip it into the brush cleaning cup. So be careful, it's better to start with less and add more if needed, rather than having too much from the start. The best approach is to think of adding water just enough to make your brush stroke smooth and easier to paint. If you feel a lot of resistance and the color looks streaky, that means the paint is too thick. If it looks really pale, like colored water, and you can still see the paper underneath after applying it, then the paint is too diluted. Once you understand the basic properties of the material you're using, let's try painting a simple picture using the most basic techniques. Now moving on to linework skills, we need to get familiar with this fine-tipped brush. The first thing we'll do is try using it with black paint for sharp, easy-to-see lines. Take some black paint and a bit of water, following the guideline for the right paint-to-water ratio we mentioned earlier. Swipe the brush on the palette so the tip is really sharp, and make sure the bristles are fully loaded with paint. Now, hold the brush just like you would a regular pen, and gently touch the tip of the fine brush to the paper. Move your hand lightly, smoothly, and comfortably so your lines will be even, thin, and long. Absolutely avoid connecting short strokes together, as this will make your lines look broken and messy. Now, let's practice by drawing straight lines and long wavy lines like strands of hair. Keep practicing steadily like this, and gradually you'll develop a feel for your hand and naturally adjust your brush technique to become more fluid and skillful. Using the line drawing skill from earlier, we'll make a slight change by starting with a pointed tip, then gradually pressing the brush down a bit, and finally lifting it up again. This will create a stroke that's pointed at both ends and has a belly in the middle. This is similar to how calligraphers write Chinese characters. Let's keep going. Now! Let's try applying the skills we just learned to drawing a coconut tree. It's best if you sketch out the shape of the coconut tree with a pencil first. If you're not used to drawing directly like I am, that's totally normal when you're just starting out. After drawing the coconut tree trunk, we just need to determine the main vein of the coconut leaf. If you think of a coconut leaf like a fish skeleton, you always start with its backbone first. Then, gradually, from that backbone, the ribs start to grow out, which in this case are the coconut leaflets. Just use the tip of your pen to carefully draw out the leaf strands. Just. Do the same with the remaining leaves, making sure your pen always has enough color and water so the lines are smooth, but not so watery that it looks like coffee. There. You're not used to it. You can go slowly, there's no problem with that. Our goal is to make it beautiful, not to be fast. It's time for the segments of the coconut tree trunk. This is a great exercise for practicing your line work. Next, I'm going to draw it for a water's edge. Let me remind you, if you're not used to it, you should sketch it out with a pencil first. Next, draw the waterways with some wavy, flowing lines. It's actually pretty fun and relaxing. Now it's time for the straight fence posts. This one is for you to practice drawing straight lines, and you can adjust the thickness however you like. With the grass blades that look like lemongrass leaves, you'll practice flicking the pen along each long blade. Just try it out. You'll use this technique a lot when drawing grass in future landscape lessons. For example, in these exercises. Now, you'll draw a fence in the distance using thin lines, like toothpicks, and see how it turns out. Even with just a simple exercise like this, we've practiced one of the most important skills that we'll use a lot in our future courses. Drawing. A simple area just means you imagine one color and make sure there's enough water. Paint it on the paper, then use a flat, even color, as if you were sticking a colored sheet of paper on top. That's called painting an area. From here, you can try picking out some Naples yellow in color in a Naples yellow area with me. Next, we'll add a red area right next to it. For the area below, we'll add some white to the edge of that color puddle, following the principle. When you create the second color puddle, make sure to keep the first one. This is something you'll learn more about in detail in the basic color course that Bui has gifted you. As you can see, if the paint has just the right amount of water, not too thick and not too thin, then painting the areas is very easy and the color comes out very even. Blending colors means you'll make the boundary between two areas blur into each other. You can use a brush that still has some paint on it or one that has been cleaned, which I'll explain later. But the key is to only lightly touch the tip of the brush. Don't press down, and don't drag or scrub the brush against the paper. Just barely touch it, that's all. Next, rinse your brush thoroughly. Dry it so that the brush is just damp enough. Use that clean, damp brush to gently stroke the tip of the bristles over the surface at the boundary between the two color areas. As you can see, after a while, the tip of the brush gets a little dirty. So, just repeat the process of rinsing and drying the brush before blending the next areas. Try to be gentle so you don't wear away the color all the way down to the paper. Blend with the tip of the brush until the transition area between colors is smooth enough. To paint this galaxy sample, we first need to sketch out the composition, specifically the line separating the sky from the ground. We'll also leave out the house for now to keep the horizon line consistent. We'll add it in later since it's very small and simple. Now I'm going to use quite a bit of white paint to create the brightest light patches at the horizon in the right corner. Mix it with a bit of lemon yellow to get a bright yellow color. Blend the paint thoroughly so the brush is fully loaded with color. Now, let's repeat the technique we just used to paint the patch. Paint carefully to separate the ground from the sky. Then, just keep adding more yellow to the edge of the color patch we just made, following the same principle. When creating the second color patch, make sure to keep part of the first patch. Paint another ring of color above, a bit darker than the previous one because it has more yellow. Now, add just a tiny bit of red to get a third color patch, which is a bit deeper and leans toward orange, as you can see on my palette. Even though I've mixed three colors, I still keep the previous color patches as a sort of history, so I can refer back to them and compare the different shades. At the boundary between the two color rings, I use the technique from the previous lesson to blend the colors. That is, I use a clean, damp brush to gently smooth the surface. In small areas like this, we'll use a small brush to work together. As you can see, I'm very gently touching the dry brush to the area that needs blending to achieve a smooth transition. After I smoothly blended the light color area, now I need to add a dark blue section to the sky using cobalt blue and just a tiny bit of black. Add a bit of magenta, like lotus pink, to give it a slight purple tint. We fill in the dark blue areas on the left and right upper parts of the sky, leaving a slightly lighter spot for later when we'll use a different color. Now we add more sky blue to the area we just painted, making sure it's a bit lighter than the previous color when we compare the old and new color patches on the palette. Now we add another level of brightness to the color patch by mixing in white, creating a third color patch and starting to brighten the lighter part of the sky. Again, use the tip of the brush to gently dab and softly blend this area together to keep it rough but unified. Now add more white to create a new, even lighter color patch. At the same time, add a bit of magenta, lotus pink, and a touch of red so that the color patch leans slightly toward a pinkish orange for the transition area below. Continue by rinsing the brush thoroughly. Dab the brush until it's just damp. And start blending the existing edges of this area using the same technique. Just lightly touch the tip of the brush to the surface and gently blend.
This time, some people have already been able to do it and won't have to struggle or fumble around to get it done, since they can already see what we're doing. Some people have already.
Some already see and won't fumble.
Fumble around to do it. Some people can already see exactly what we're doing and therefore won't have to fumble around to do it. Some people have.
Already. Some people can see what we are doing, so they don't need to worry or struggle to do it themselves.
Some people have been able to see what we
are doing and will not. We'll apply the light color swatches onto the Milky Way, then blend them out with a damp brush as usual, rearrange, just like SKR. To fumble around to do the work.
Some people already know what to do.
Some people have already seen what we're doing and, as a result, won't have to fumble around to do the work. They can approach their tasks with more confidence and efficiency, since they understand the process and expectations. Others, who haven't yet observed our methods, may need more time and experience some confusion as they figure things out. The difference is clear. Those who are informed move forward smoothly, while those who are not may face delays. As more people become familiar with our approach, the workflow will become more streamlined. Until then, it's important to support those still learning, so everyone can reach the same level of understanding and efficiency. By sharing knowledge and making our processes transparent, we help reduce unnecessary effort and ensure everyone can contribute effectively.
take a lot of white paint and set aside a puddle on the palette, then add a bit more water using a small brush. We're going to use this to paint stars scattered across the sky. Use another clean, dry brush and hold it underneath, ready for us to tap the brush. Be careful, only use a little bit of watery paint on the brush, otherwise you might splatter a big blob onto your painting and ruin it. Hold the brush higher up so the tiny paint droplets spread out wide and evenly across the surface of the painting. Make sure you only splatter just enough paint. Don't get carried away and splatter too much everywhere just because it looks cool, or you'll end up ruining all the work we've done so far. Now you can lower the brush closer. The paint droplets will gather more densely instead of spreading far out. These will become the brightest centers of the galaxy. Now, that's it. Adjust if you see any spots missing, or okay, just like that. So, have we finished the starry sky? And now we can finally paint the black ground. The reason is so we don't accidentally paint stars onto the black ground. For the area with the ground, it's easy, just use black paint and add enough water. Paint a patch of ground first, then add in the house. Put an isosceles triangle on top. It's really easy to understand, right? Now, add some T-shaped utility poles, making them gradually shorter, using your line drawing skills. They're really just thin black lines, like drawing with a toothpick. Now, peel off the tape, but make sure to pull it outward, not inward, or you might tear the painting. Now, take a look at the final result. It really shines. So, we've just completed 3 basic skills, which are super important. You'll use them in all future courses, even advanced ones. So, what do you think? AA. The skills here really just boil down to 3 main ones. If you master all 3 of these skills, you'll be way ahead on your art journey.